So Tesla's down about 1.3% today, but I'm still feeling very, very good on Tesla. And I do still think that we're going to see Tesla hit 200 to potentially even $220 by the end of June to the middle of July. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter DiCarlo. I've been a full-time trader for the past 9 years. And the reason that I make these videos is to help give you guys a realistic understanding of what it looks like to be a professional trader. But more importantly, I needed this more than anything in my first 3 years of trading. The first thing that we're going to look at is going to be price action over the past couple of weeks. You're going to notice that since the gap up on earnings, we have basically been consolidating in this resistance level where we are making lower highs, which is usually not a good sign, but the opposite is happening where we're actually making higher lows. And so when we have this type of compression, we usually get a squeeze in what is called our apex zone. And what I want you to think about here is basically a pimple. You have this resistance level that is acting as one finger. You have the support level that's acting as another finger. And as you're squeezing that nasty pimple, there has to be somewhere for all of this pus to go. And that's hopefully to the upside. So what I'm expecting is for Tesla to continue to probably squeeze price action to be very boring between 172.50 up to about $182. Once these levels are broken, that's where I think that we'll see the big move for Tesla back up to $200, maybe even highs of 220, which is massive upside. We're looking at 12% over the next month, month and a half, to maybe even 23% upside. Of course, all of this potential profit cannot come without some sort of downside. So our downside in this instance would be a close under $167.50. This would be a break of structure because this is where that old lower low was. So basically, if this support level is broken, there is a very, very good chance that we will see Tesla move its way down to potentially fill the gap from earnings at $147. At this moment, I'm currently holding calls on Tesla. You guys are going to be able to see in my open positions tab here that we are sitting with a bunch of calls actually for June, and we actually have some calls for this Friday as well. So the June calls that we're currently in at this point, I've been adding into this position for a while now, and there's a pretty good chance that I will probably roll this trade over. You're going to see that our first position that we ended up entering was on April 30th. We averaged down on May 2nd, averaged down again on May 8th, and then our final buy-in, which was going to be the final 25%, was here on the 13th. And I don't plan to accumulate any more shares. Now that we are currently squeezing within this level, this is where I've built a full position, and this is where we're just going to be patient and wait for this potential move up to target. I will say that the fact that Tesla could continue to squeeze for the next couple of weeks does worry me as far as theta decay. Theta decay occurs when you're trading options, and basically, even if the stock goes up, down, or sideways, you are paying money to the person who wrote you that contract. If you want to learn more about theta decay and how to trade options the right way, we do have a completely free beginner options trading course that I will link in the description, and we do have an advanced trading course that will be free as well coming in July. And while I'm still bullish on Tesla, as we're getting closer to the expiration, I don't want to pay more and more in theta decay. So my plan is that if we do not get a breakout in the next couple of days, at least up to 182, what I will do is close this position, realize the loss, and then from there, I will open up with the rest of the capital calls for July. This will suck because if Tesla does break out very quickly, I will not make as much money as I would have with shorter dated calls, but it's going to drastically reduce the risk that I have because I will be paying less in theta decay. So at this point, I'm still bullish on Tesla, and I do think that this breakout will happen. It just might take until the first week of June in order to get the major breakout that we're looking for. The S&P 500 is still one very bullish. You can see that we're up over the market bias, and you can see on the weekly BX trender, we are showing more and more strength. That being said, over the past week or so, we've really just been consolidating between this range of about 525 up to about 532. And I think that going into the rest of this week, this consolidation will most likely continue. But I do plan to go long on the S&P 500 with probably 1 month out calls once we pull back into a much more opportune level, probably around $522. And so what I'm going to be waiting for is for this market bias to either eventually come up here and catch price action around 526, or what I think is probably going to happen is we're going to see price move its way back down to about 524, and then we can catch it around there, looking to continue this move to the upside. Now, what would be a potential sign that we would not want to continue to go long? Well, if this market bias on the weekly and if this BX trend on the weekly starts to make lower lows and we start to see this break under 518, that would be a very good sign that we're going to potentially pull our way back into 508 or 504. I know that there are a lot of people right now who want to short the market. They see this potential rising wedge in play. They think that there's no way the market can continue to go up, but I will always tell you to please be careful going against the trend. There have been so many rising wedges, so many times that the S&P 500 has been extremely oversold and overbought, and it has not faded. As a professional, your most important thing is keeping your capital and trading against the trend. Unless you're running very tight stop losses and you know exactly what to look for, you really should be focusing on trading with the trend. So for SPY, I'm going to be waiting to see if we can get the pullback down to our trend line or our market bias, and I will look to go long from there. Nvidia has been on an absolute tear, not only for the past year, but just in the past couple of days since we've had earnings. And I was asking people within our community as a serious question, not to be a hater, not to mess with people, but if you are short right now on Nvidia, why? What is your reasoning? We have insane earnings growth. We have massive earnings numbers that were a huge beat. We have a 10-to-1 stock split that's coming up on the 10th of June. And if we look just directly what's in front of us, not if something's a bubble or if a stock is overpriced, but there is no signs of weakness. So over here on the right side of your screen, this is called the BX Trender. And basically, this is something that we teach within our private academy, that when we're making higher lows, we're starting to become bullish, and that this is usually where we'll see this type of breakout happening. So over on the right, this is where we would have been spotting Nvidia for a potential breakout as we were coming into resistance. And then you can see each and every single week, we're closing higher and higher on our BX Trender. Now, I do not have a position on this because even though we had a very good bullish setup, it was not worth it for me to take the trade because I didn't want to hold it through earnings. That being said, the day after earnings, you see we have this big gap up here. The next day we open at $1,021 and the BX Trender on the daily is making higher highs and the BX Trender on the weekly is making higher highs. So we could have entered at open here back on, what would this be, the 22nd, and we would be long on Nvidia still, even now, until we get confirmation of a lower high on this BX Trender. So even now, we could have rode an 11% plus win, and we will continue to wait to see until we show some sort of weakness. That would be my time to say, not that we're going to short it, not at all, not even close, but that this breakout and this impulse that we have from earnings is finally starting to weaken. You are not going to get a badge or kudos or anything cool for being the first person to short Nvidia. If you guys remember, we were publicly shorting SMCI near the height. The reason for this was not because the stock was just making a higher high. We were seeing that there was weakness here in this higher high. We were seeing the BX Trender was showing weakness, and we knew that there was a very good chance that we were going to pull back. From there, we weren't seeing any more weakness past that point. And right now, Nvidia is showing nothing besides bullishness. So at this point, I would just be not looking to go short. And if you're not long, just sit back and find something else to play. But sometimes we just miss out on these epic types of runs, and it's salty, but we have to move on. Take a look now at AMD. So at this point, I was looking to hopefully get a long position early this morning. And normally I'm not that stingy, but today I was very, very stingy because I have a lot of positions on the table. And so what I was waiting for was price to pull its way back down to 164 and for price to test the market bias, which never occurred. Now, for those of you who follow me on X and YouTube, you know that I've probably been bearish for the past couple of months on AMD, and I want to explain what has changed. The first thing is that we're still in this bullish uptrend, but I was no longer playing bullish positions on AMD once we broke underneath our market bias. You can see that once we broke under back in March, we have just been making consecutive lower lows, and bearish market structure has basically been there to perfection. But recently, we've seen price break above, and we've been consolidating within this range over our market bias for the past week or so. Now, the fact that we're showing this potential trend reversal on the daily is a very good sign, but what we want to do is look at a bigger time frame such as the weekly, not necessarily at the chart, but to look at the RSI or the BX trender, whichever one you use, to see what type of accumulation is happening. Are we making lower lows and is there bearish pressure coming in? Or are we starting to make higher lows and we're starting to see more and more people buy into this stock? And in the case of AMD on the weekly chart, you will see to the right side of your screen here that we are getting a ton of bullish accumulation. This is represented by the BX trender making higher lows. If you guys want to learn all about this, we do teach it within our private academy. The link will be in the description. So all we're waiting for at this point is price to break above 172. That's basically our pivot level, which means that once it's over 172, there's really nothing stopping us from moving back up to 205. So I do think that probably by middle of July, we will see AMD back up at $205 to test this bearish order block. Now, what would be our stop loss in this instance? Well, where I would be placing this is right underneath the market bias. If 150 is broken, then we are definitely going to move into a lower low. There's no doubt about it. Now, the final thing to look at is going to be the actual weekly chart, which will be to the right side of your screen here. You know that we were talking about just this weekly market bias, or I'm sorry, just this weekly BX trender, but now look at what's happening with the chart. The SMA is still green, which is bullish. We're showing buying pressure, just like what happened here. And look at what happened last time. Once we got this same setup as last time, which does not mean that this is going to happen again, but once we got that same setup last time, we had nearly a 133% push within 168 days. And as we said, it doesn't mean that that's going to happen, but I will take this position each and every single time. I hope this video helps, guys. Thanks for all the support. Let me know any tickers that you want me to go over, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.